Hey guys, I'm Pixel Dan, and this is a review of the Hasbro Star Wars Toys R Us exclusive speeder bike with Scout Trooper. So this is certainly not the first time we've received a speeder bike in the multiple Star Wars lines, but this is a newly updated version of the speeder bike. So is it a definitive piece? Let's check it out and find out. The speeder bike comes in this really cool window box packaging that fully showcases both the speeder bike and the Scout Trooper with a nice little indoor chase scene diorama in the background. The back of the package shows off the bike and its pilot along with some of its features. You'll notice that the packaging is touting that this is a customizable speeder bike with detachable cannon. So I'll show you exactly how all of that works in just a bit. Alright, so let's take a look at this set outside of the packaging. Before we get to the speeder bike itself, let's go ahead and take a look at the included Scout Trooper. Now, the Scout Trooper has always been one of my favorite looks for the Imperial Stormtroopers. I've always loved the really cool helmet on there. The figure itself is a pretty decent representation of the Scout Trooper. It looks really good, and it's got a great sculpt of the head. It's got a nice clean white armor on his body and solid black for the arms and the legs. There isn't a lot of overly detailed paint or anything like that going on there. The articulation on the guy is pretty good too. You'll notice that the head's on a really loose ball joint because he can roll all the way around, look left and right, and has the ability to look forward, which is great since he's going to be sitting on that speeder bike and having to look up like that. You got ball joints in the shoulders there, you've got swivels just above the elbow as well as a regular elbow joint, swivels at the wrists, you've got a nice rocker area on the torso there, which is again good for him sitting on the bike. You've got hinge joints at the thighs, allowing for them to be split outwards. You've got swivels as well, and swivels right above the knees, a standard knee joint, swivels at the ankle, and a standard ankle joint. So, he's got a pretty wide range of articulation. However, you will notice that even when he's just kind of standing normal, he is a little bow-legged. So he's always going to have that stance like he's been riding a horse all day. The Scout Trooper includes two of his little blasters. You can hold them in both of his hands if you want to. However, his hands are more molded for holding the handles on the speeder bike, and so they don't look exactly right while holding the blaster. The right hand looks best. The left hand really looks out of place, unfortunately. Now, you do have one holster that's on his right calf there, so you can holster one of those blasters. However, there is no holster for the second one, so honestly, I'm not sure exactly why he comes with two of these blasters, but you can always put one in his hand and holster one of them if you want to. Alright, so let's skip on over to looking at the speeder bike itself. So like I said, this is a newer version of the speeder bike. It's a little different than the ones we've seen in the past. I know the first speeder bike I had was one that had the exploding features. So this one here, we don't have to worry about it really coming apart or anything like that. It's got a really nice deco to it. It's got a pretty basic paint job, but you'll notice looking up close, you got some great little silver scuffs on there, like the paint's been scratched off of it. And you've also got some really cool details, like the blanket looking piece that is kind of molded to the back of the bike. The seat, of course, is a black color. You've got little buttons on the control panel in front of it there. And you've even got some really cool details on the underside, such as the black cables coming out of the engine, as well as a little motor piece that's hanging down. You do have some other cool little details, such as the flaps on the back are able to lift up. And you can even lift up the base of the speeder bike to show off the engine on the inside, which has got a really nice gunmetal silver color to it. Now, the handlebars on there are made of a really soft gummy plastic. They don't really move forwards and backwards, but you can see that they're easily bent around, and as a result of that, the right handle on mine is a little warped coming out of the package. Not too big of a deal, but it is something to be wary of when removing it from the packaging. You'll also notice that there's a small little blaster on the underside that does have the ability to rotate. And there are two different ways you can display this speeder bike. You can have it on the ground itself, and for that there is an included little leg that attaches to the front of it, and the little parts that the Scout Trooper's feet rest on act as the feet for the back of it. So when you plug that little piece onto the front there, you can just have your speeder bike resting on the ground, and it stands nice and even and looks really good. Now, of course, like I said, that front leg is removable. It just clips right onto the front, so you can pop that off if you want to display it in a flying pose. And to do this, the set comes with this really cool transparent flight stand. There's a little hole in the back of the speeder bike that the flight stand just plugs into, and it fits nice and firm, and that way you can have your speeder bike displayed as if it's actually hovering above the ground, which is going to be a really cool way to display this piece on your shelf. Now, as an added accessory, we also get this little blaster on a tripod. So this works as a standalone weapon, which you can have your Scout Trooper standing behind and blasting the enemies. But this is what the box was talking about when it said it was a customizable, detachable cannon for the speeder bike. So let me show you how this works. It's kind of got this little bit of a transforming feature, which is interesting. You can take this whole thing apart, so you can pop the blaster off of the base, and then you can take all of the legs off of it, and they plug onto the little prongs that are on the other end. The cannon then plugs onto the underside of that little base, and once it's all put together, you can snap this onto the bottom of your speeder bike. So now you have a giant blaster cannon hanging off the bottom of your speeder bike. And of course it is able to turn left and right just like the little blaster that was already underneath the speeder bike. So it's an interesting little attachment. It works much better this way than it does as a standalone little tripod piece, but this way you can display it with or without it. It's totally up to you. So now let's go ahead and plug our Scout Trooper onto the bike to see exactly how he looks. There are pegs for the feet on the little back end there, and his feet plug firmly onto that so it holds nice and tight. And you can get him adjusted and hold on to both handlebars there, and our Scout Trooper looks incredibly cool riding on the speeder. Now, of course, you can mix and match some of those other parts, like the blasters he comes with, and we can get some really cool poses of him reaching off to the right and blasting at an approaching Luke Skywalker, which is a very satisfying looking pose. Overall, I'm very happy with this set. The Scout Trooper himself doesn't work too well on his own since he's got that weird bow-legged stance, but again, works great while he's actually on the speeder bike, and I think the overall look and appearance of this particular speeder bike is really nice. It's got some cool little features, and while the cannon thing is neat, I wouldn't necessarily say it's essential, but at least it's removable if you don't want to use it. But what I really love is the included flight stand, because now we can actually have our speeder bike hovering above the ground on our display shelves. And like I said, it looks incredibly cool. The Toys R Us exclusive speeder bike and Scout Trooper is on store shelves now at your local Toys R Us. So, happy hunting, and until next time.